left is getting into very, very deep divide among the understanding of what is real internationalism, that some of the left groups really just try to keep this dogmatic way of thinking, and some just choose to be with the oppressed. And Syria was the first, for me personally, was the first step to see this divide, which we can clearly see now in Ukraine. So we have two our Syrian speakers. So let's start with Farid. Yeah, Farid, you're here with us. Yeah, so please, the floor is yours.
Hello everyone, my name is Farid Mahloul. أنا صحفي سوري، صحفي وباحث سوري، بشتغل بتوثيق الأزمة السورية المستمرة في شمال غرب سوريا. صار الإبادة الجماعية اللي عم ترتكبها روسيا من 2015 لهلا ضد السوريين هي يعني العالم كله عم يتفرج كيف روسيا والأسد عم يقصفوا المدنيين والمستشفيات والمراكز المدن والأسواق الشعبية. لحد هلا من 2015 لحد هلا روسيا ارتكبت آلاف المجازر بحق السوريين بكافة أنواع الأسلحة. وبعد هلا يعني بالنسبة للوضع الأوكراني، فعنا بلش الغزو الروسي لأوكرانيا. روسيا عم ترتكب المجازر بحق الأوكرانيين نفس ما عملت في سوريا، نفس الأسلحة ونفس الطريقة، يعني هي الوحشية.
Okay, that's all you want to say?
صهيب هون؟
Yeah.
صهيب. صهيب. ممكن تترجم؟ كنت تمام. فينك تترجم هلا ولا بكمل؟
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
I can also translate if I have to.
Okay. تمام. ولحد هلا يعني الوضع بسوريا اللي كان بسوريا وبأوكرانيا مستمر. يعني الآلاف المجازر عم ترتكب لحد هلا بحق السوريين والأوكران بنفس الطريقة، بنفس الوحشية، بنفس يعني العالم لازم هو يدعم السوريين ويدعم الأوكران ضد روسيا يعني أشرار ومجرمين. ويعني الوضع لحد هلا هو كارثي. يعني الحرب بسوريا ما استمرت لحد هلا، في قصف من قبل روسيا والنظام. امبارح كان في قصف استهدف المدنيين في ريف حلب، مات 3 أطفال ومات كثير في جرحى، واليوم في قصف. فهذا القصف من قبل روسيا والنظام هو مستمر على السوريين، ما وقف ابدا. كل واحد بيقول انه الحرب هي انتهت بسوريا، هذا الحكي مو صحيح ابدا. نحن بنطلب من العالم ومن كل واحد انه يتضامن ويشتغل كرمال موضوع السوريين. فالوضع هو كارثي للاسف. العالم عم بيتفرج علينا كسوريين او كأوكران. عم بيجي دعم، عم بيجي مساعدات، ولكن هي ما في يعني ما في شيء انه يوقف هذا الشيء. لازم انه يكون في حل في المجتمع الدولي من دول العالم يوقفوا هذا هاي ويوقفوا روسيا مع حدها. يعني لحد هلا روسيا مستمره بجرائمها يعني رغم كل شيء، والعالم قاعد عم يتفرج علينا كيف نحن عم نموت وكيف عم نقصف بكل انواع الاسلحه. فبشار اسد وبوتين هن دكتاتوريين ومجرمين حرب، ولكن العالم يعني عن جد يعني ما في طريقه، ما عم نلاقي طريقه انه العالم ينتبه لهذا الشيء. لحد هلا مستمرين بجرائمهم ضد المدنيين.
Okay, is that all?
Okay, 1 minute. فمن يومين
The
كمان
English translation, yes, I can hear it. It's okay.
اوكي. من كم يوم انا بشتغل كمان مع منظمه الطوارئ السوري. كانت المنظمه الطوارئ عم بتوزع مساعدات لمخيم الركبان المحاصر من قبل النظام الاسد وروسيا وايران. بين ما هي عم بتوزع المساعدات الانسانيه، كانت الطائرات الروسيه هي عم تقصف المدنيين في ريف حلب في سوريا. فيعني هذا الشيء كثير كويس بالنسبه للناس المحاصره. الناس على مخيم الركبان ناس محاصر، لاجئين سوريين عايشين بقلبه، ما في عندهم يعني هو من شكل محاصر، ما في عندهم لا ماء ولا يعني ولا ادويه ولا عم يوصلهم شيء. النظام محاصر من روسيا. امبارح المنظمه السوريه للطوارئ وصلت المساعدات للمخيم. نحن بنتمنى انه يكون في دعم اكثر. نتمنى انه يكون العالم يوقف بشار اسد وبوتين عن حدهم. نتمنى العالم يكون في تحريك اكثر يوقف المذابح المستمره بحق السوريين او كان اوكران.
Okay. Can you write? Okay, can you write to him or let him know somehow?
ايه صحيح خلصت.
Okay, lovely. Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, we have another Syrian activist, Val. So if you want to speak, the floor is yours, please. Okay, lovely. Well, unmute yourself, Val, please. Oh, yeah. Now we can. Can you hear us?
Hello?
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
You expecting our friend to go on or he finished? No?
Yeah. He's finished. You can go.
Okay. Hello, everyone, and good evening for all of you. I am Wael Amri. I use this pseudonym just for security reasons. I don't, some of my friends know my surname or everything, but because of the meeting will be recorded, I have to hide my surname for security reasons. I would like to speak about Syria first, because it's our first wound, which still bleeding. This one hasn't stopped bleeding up till now. Alas, all the world, just watch, and is enough with condemning sometimes or with anxiety, like Ban Ki-moon, always anxious. This anxiety kills us. We don't need anxiety, we need action. All the world see Assad's crimes in Syria, he commits war crimes, and the ICC now just waiting some decision makers to steer the case. We don't know where, when, and how. My question is, who is the decision maker, and how can these files be taken to the ICC? I don't know. Frankly, I don't know. We don't need Syria future like in Bosnia, the president of Serbia, who was taken by, after 20 years of crimes, he was taken to the ICC. It is not a justice. No, justice must be done directly. Decision makers in the world, we know all of them, Europe, USA, they must put a limit for all these massacres happen in Syria and Ukraine. They have all the stakes, they have all the abilities to stop this war. In Syria, they allow Russia to invade Syria. Under the table, from under the table, they allow Russia to attack the revolution. Really, and alas, and unfortunately, all the crimes happen in Syria and Russia simultaneously without taking the dictators accountable. We feel sympathy with Ukrainian people. Our children were killed at the same way Ukraine children killed. Our women raped before the husbands, just the husband see his wife raped before him, and the world still silent. I don't know why. I'm sorry to be angry. You are all feel, I think you feel the pain I feel now. We are here in a siege. We are here in a big prison in the north, and the regime now is deploying his troops. We don't know when is the war happen. We don't know when our women be raped or killed. We just waiting our turn. Unfortunately, the revolution has been taken by the superpowers. Unfortunately, this is what happened in Syria. We have the revolution, we have revolutionary, but many of them taken or held by some powers who move the stakes here and there, like the chess, like playing the chess. I speak on behalf of the revolutionary, the true revolutionary people who need to get their freedom from all oppression. We need justice for all over the world, not just for Syria, for Ukraine, in China, everywhere, in Russia itself. We know that Russian people, in Iran, or we know that Iranian people want to get rid of the regime. All of these wanted people have solidarity and feel sympathy with Ukraine, and we are all facing the same enemy. People against dictatorship. Thank you for your listening. This is my just a few words. I hope you understand that. And sorry for my bad English.
No, it's definitely not bad English. Thank you very much. Okay, so from Syria, we're going to go to Iran. I think many of you seen there are many intersections between the protesters who supported the Iranian uprising and also the Ukrainian among the Ukrainian diaspora groups. I've seen a lot of it. And we got today two women activists representing the Iranian communities. I think we will start with Frida, who is in US now. So Frida, please.
Okay, first, thank you, Simon and Adam and the whole ENSU group for organizing these really important discussions. And thank you, Farid and Wael, and my heart goes out to you and all the Syrian people. I am with you. So I'm going to read from some notes, and I'm going to look at that screen. And so if in the meantime you can't hear me, or if you want to say something to me, please say it, because I won't be looking at the chat notes. So what I did was I created basically a chronological list of what has been done in terms of solidarity between Iranian progressives and Ukraine, just so you get an idea of what has been done. And of course, everyone knows that Iran is a key ally of Russia. It provides it with drones and missiles that are bombing Ukrainian civilians and infrastructure. And Iran is now building a drone factory near Moscow. And Russia has been giving nuclear technology and arms to Iran for decades. We all know that. So what has been done in terms of solidarity, or in terms of even discussion of Ukraine by Iranians and Iranian progressives? So in February of 2022, after Russia's full-scale invasion, Nasrin Sotoudeh, who's an Iranian feminist human rights attorney, wrote an open letter to the Secretary General of the United Nations to condemn Russia's invasion and to declare solidarity with Ukrainians. I have a link to that I'd be happy to share. I have links to everything that I'm going to cite. So if you want them, send me an email and I'll send you all these notes. And it was a very powerful letter of solidarity with the Ukrainians. And she wrote it while she was under house arrest. She's been in prison for many, many years, and she was let out on probation, and she's basically under house arrest at this point in Tehran. Then in October of 2022, there was a gathering of Iranians who live in Kyiv, gathering in opposition to the Iranian regime. They were holding up the Ukrainian flag and saying that we oppose the Iranian regime and we're with Ukraine. In May of 2022, an Iranian leftist website, Critique of Political Economy, that has a lot of readers inside Iran, organized a panel discussion of three leftists, Saeed Rahnema, who's an Iranian academic in Canada, Yasmin Mezar, it's spelled M-A-T-H-E-R, who's an Iranian woman academic in Britain, and she's on the editorial board of the journal Critique in Britain, and Kamran Matin, who's a Kurdish academic and activist in Britain. And basically, they talked about the nature of the war in Ukraine, and they called it Ukraine's crisis in the shadow of a Cold War. That's what they called it. And Rahnema and Mezar, they argued that this is a proxy war with NATO. Mezar, who's a woman activist, and she's the one who's on the editorial board of Critique. She doesn't even consider Russia an imperialist state. She says that we can't use the word imperialist for Russia. But Kamran Matin, who is a Kurdish academic and activist and has written several books, he gave a very strong defense of Ukraine's struggle for self-determination, said Russia is imperialist, that we need to be challenging this imperialist war of aggression, and you can't just dismiss this as a proxy war. Then, so that was a significant panel discussion. Then in November of 2022, a group of Ukrainian feminists issued a statement of solidarity with Iranian women, with the Women Life Freedom Movement. And that was initiated by Oksana Dudchak and other feminists from inside Ukraine. And that was, I have the link to that if you'd like to see it. It was a very powerful and moving statement of solidarity, saying that they're with the movement. They know that the Iranian people who are struggling don't support the regime, and they hope that they will support the Ukrainians. Then in January of 2023, Zamaneh, which is a Persian language radio station based in Amsterdam, with many readers inside Iran, invited me to do a bilingual interview with Yulia Yurchenko and Oksana Dutrek, and they called it a solidarity between Ukrainian and Iranian women against repression and war. So we had a 75-minute conversation, bilingual, English and Persian. I talked about the invasion and the response from Ukrainians and Ukrainian feminists, and also critique those feminists who are dismissing this as a proxy war. We talked about the responsibilities of feminists, responsibility for solidarity with the Ukrainian struggle for self-determination, all of that. And that is all out there. People are watching it. Personally, unfortunately, I have not received a lot of emails about it. But what I've also been told is that inside Iran, one of the ways in which the regime is really cracking down is that it's making the internet very, very slow. So unless you have a lot of resources and can get the VPNs, it's very, very difficult to read online at this point, or to listen to things online, but people are still attempting to do that. Okay. Then in March, there was a statement of minimum demands of independent Iranian unions and civil society organizations signed by dozens of labor, feminist, human rights groups in Iran. It issued some very radical demands for social justice, against oppression, for defense of women's rights, the rights of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer people, the rights of national minorities. It was the most radical statement that has come out of Iran by grassroots forces that I have seen ever in Iranian history. It was a tremendous, important statement. Now, it did not mention Iran's intervention in Syria or Ukraine. It ended by calling for, quote, normalization of international relations at the highest level with all countries on the basis of justice, mutual respect, the prohibition of access to nuclear weapons, and the promotion of the effort to create world peace. So that's what they said. And I wish they had mentioned Syria and Ukraine, and you would expect with such a radical statement they would, but they didn't mention Ukraine and Syria by name. And then finally, in terms of protest activities abroad, Fatima is going to talk about activities in Europe. In the US, there have been many instances in which there have been protests by Ukrainians in solidarity with the Ukrainian struggle for self-determination, and Iranians have participated. But I'm very sorry to say that the majority of the Iranian participation has been by those who are holding up flags of the former king, Reza Pahlavi, or the Mujahideen, which is the militarists called back by the US. So unfortunately, I have to warn you about them. They are not progressive. Even though the Reza Pahlavi, the monarchist supporters, they tried an alliance with some of the other forces which called themselves progressives. But that alliance has broken up at this point because the Reza Pahlavi forces are so authoritarian that even the ones who were selling out couldn't tolerate them. There have been some actions of solidarity between Iranians and Ukrainians in Canada, including a protest in front of the Russian embassy in November 2022. And so to sum up, I would say within the Iranian left, which is small, unfortunately, the campus view on Russia's invasion of Ukraine is still strong, but the Iranian left is very small. The broader progressive forces in Iran and the ordinary public in Iran are completely on the side of Ukrainians. They have a great deal of sympathy for Ukrainians and they have hatred for Russia. So that's how I would like to end it. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you, Frida. Thank you again. Okay, Fatima Mazujali, I guess probably will talk about the events in Europe. She's located in Berlin, as far as I know.
Yeah.
So, yes, please. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much for inviting me. But I see Farid already wrote that he wants to say a few words. I would be happy to let him talk if he wants. It's up to you. What?
No, I think we should go with the speakers and then we can go with the interventions and questions and everything. Yeah. So I think that's the best option for it.
Okay. I'll be very brief because I think Frida said most of the things I had to say. So I would be happy to respond question in the Q&A session. So, but in terms of just briefly talking about discussing the activities, diaspora leftists and progressive group basically in Europe, and it's been most of the young, especially we have a phenomenal young generation like Europe, born in Europe and grew up in Europe, but they are very at the moment this young group in different part of the Europe are very active on the current Iranian women revolution since last September. So, and basically they holding event every month more or less, and they are in England, Germany, France, Belgium, Ireland, Austria, and Netherlands, and they basically in every event they hold, they show their solidarity with Ukrainian resistance. I would like also to draw your attention to this prominent human rights lawyer, Payam Akhavan. He's a very prominent faculty and human rights lawyer and activist from Toronto, University of Toronto. He's been in among the Ukrainian resistance in different cities of Ukraine since the beginning of the war. And you can see he speaks to media on any conference that basically takes place on the issue of the Ukrainian war. And another important thing is that usually the Iranian opposition group and the diaspora, and usually when they speak on the media platform on the for the current revolution, and they bring up the issue of Ukraine, it's usually on the platform of Clubhouse. That I'm very active there. And it's like night and day. Twitter, Instagram, TV channels that are based in London, Prague, and Washington, D.C. These are, and why it's important that I bring up this, because when Ukrainian war happened, it acknowledged by the progressive Iranian immediately in comparison with the war that happened in Syria, because the war in Syria, when it happened, it didn't come to really media's attention in Persian immediately, and that's why it's important to bring it up. I'm also a member of this right to resistance group that Mary, she's also in this group in this event today. We are also working on the Ukraine in solidarity with Ukraine. We do a lot of activities. And also I am writing for collaborating with this Turkish Workers' Party in Istanbul. One of the members is going to speak today. And I write about, basically I update the current revolution in Iran, what's happening to women in Iran, to girls, activities in different cities of Iran, I publish it on their website. So I would stop here, and I would be happy to answer questions later. Thank
you very much. Yeah. So you mentioned Turkey, and we're gonna go to that country because of the latest elections also. But Sedat, who's gonna speak, I think can speak also about his own visit to Ukraine, I guess. So that might be interesting for some of you guys. Sedat Durar, please. Yeah, play it.
Thank you very much. And first of all, thank you very much for our Syrian comrades and Iranian comrades. And also thank you very much for the translation too. My name is Sedat Dural, and I'm a member of Workers' Democracy Party in Turkey, which is Turkish section of International Workers' Unity, Fourth International. First of all, I want to warn you about Turkey's situation on Ukrainian question, because especially in Ukraine, when I was there, I also saw a lot of, shops called as Bayraktar, which is, a company who produces some drones. For the really early time of the occupation started, Turkey sent some small amounts of drones and tried to seem like they are supporting Ukrainian people, but actually it was a hypocrite situation, because the Turkish government basically tries to get in touch with Putin and trying to continue their really good relationship. In the following weeks, Turkish government waits for Putin's visits in Turkey. So in fact, we can say that Turkish government is not really supporting Ukrainian people's residents, etc. And also I have to say that Turkish and Russian economical relationship has never been as good as right now, because Russian companies are trying to cut the blockage by using some Turkish companies. And there are a lot of really rich Russian communities in Turkey. Some of them are from opposition against Putin, but some of them are just businessmen, and also just trying to, create some economical relationship in Turkey to send some Russian products to Europe. So it's really important, I think. And also for Turkey, the leftist situation is not so good. I need to say that too, because generally Turkish leftists thinks that the main imperialistic pole is United States. So anyone fights against United States means they are anti-imperialist. So in Turkey, unfortunately, many leftist organizations were not supporting Syrian people's struggle against dictatorship regime of Assad. And also their position is more or less the same on the question of Ukraine. And then I can tell you something about our trips to the Ukraine. We made 3 convoys to Ukraine, which had some humanitarian aids. The first of them was in May 2022. Last year in May. Our comrades from Argentina and Spain, they went to Kiev and Kryvyi Rih, and they met with independent miners workers and social movements. And also we met with some other anarchist organizations, etc., such as solidarity collectives. We sent them some humanitarian aids, and we did not, collect our aids by our wishes. We just called the unions and other comrades in Ukraine, and we delivered them what they asked. And the second trip was in November in 2022, last year in November, and I was in that convoy. We traveled from Kryvyi Rih to Kiev to Kryvyi Rih, and then we traveled to Zaporozhye. We've met with solidarity collectives, social movements, independent miners workers in Kryvyi Rih, and independent railways workers in Kryvyi Rih and Zaporozhye both. We delivered some, winter clothes, some radios, some, qualified first aid materials, And in Zaporizhia, because wages were so low, like 200 euros for maximum, just think that. So they needed some food. We just bring some money to the Zaporizhia, and we bought some, food for the people who were members of independent railways workers. So we made our third trip in February, last February. The trip, our Catalonian comrades were in that trip, and they went to Zaporizhia. Again, they met with Independent Railways Workers Union, and they went to Donbas, of course, the Ukrainian part of the Ukrainian-controlled part of Donbas, and they met with miners, independent miners worker there. And this is really important. We are trying to make our third trip in August, and we are going to visit Zaporizhia again, and we are going to visit Mykolaiv Teachers Union, independent union, and we are trying to collect something they need, especially after the dam situation. If they need something specific, we are trying to find them and bring it to them. So this is our main activity right now. We are trying to collect some money, some aids, etc. And we are trying to go there in August. If anyone wants to join us, or if anyone wants to get in touch with us, I can send you, I can write you my email here. We will be really happy to, chat, and we will be really happy to organize this convoy together, humanitarian convoy together. I'll write it down here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Just one thing I want to mention what
Yep.
Sedat said. There is an opportunity to also for anyone who wants to help with fundraising. We can put up the bank account in the chat. If Sedat, correct me if I'm wrong, if it's the same bank account that Lucha Internacionalista is using, I guess.
Yeah. It's the same one.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I will put it in the chat when we.
Thank you very much.
Before we finish the meeting. So whoever wants to join the convoy just by helping financially, please do so. Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much again. So now we continue our trip through the Middle East, and we go to Israel. Yaakov Ben Efrat, the General Secretary of the Left Dam Party in Israel, will be speaking. I had a very big, let's say, a long discussion with the representatives of the party, and I'm very happy that I found some interesting people in Israel who do support Ukraine unequivocally. So Yaakov, please. You're muted, Yaakov. Unmute yourself, please, first. Yaakov, you're mute. Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'm myself. Okay.
Yes.
I'm Yaakov Ben Efrat. I'm speaking with you from Haifa in Israel. تحياتي لكل إخواني من سوريا. Our story with Ukraine starts in Syria. We started our political activity concerning the Arab Spring in Egypt and then in Syria, and we saw the massacre and the terrible deeds that were done in Syria by the regime with the help of the Iranians, and then with the help with the Gulf countries, and in the end, over all of them, we had Putin in Russia. We had two demonstrations, small, one in front of the Russian embassy in Tel Aviv, and one in Jerusalem by the visit of some, maybe the Prime Minister of Russia was to Israel, and we were maybe the only group, a very small group, that were protesting what Russia was doing in Syria, the massacre, the terrible massacre. It was unbelievable that the world can see and don't do anything about this. It was something that if you watch, and we were watching it day by day and hour by hour, we were between desperation and tears, not less. And the only question for us was when the world will pay the price for their silence, what's happening in Syria. We didn't know when, we didn't know where, but we understood that this impunity will not stop with the Syrian people. We were in a situation in which the Israeli government was looking at what's going on in Syria and saying, we are for the two sides. We support the two of them. Let them fight each other. We don't care about human rights. We don't care who is good and who is bad. For us, everyone there is bad. And it was incredible that the Obama administration let this massacre happening in their watch. But the first to pay the price for this kind of behavior were the American people itself. Because with the help of Putin, we had Trump in the government, and for the first time, America's democracy was threatened in a very direct way. And it was very clear who is supporting Trump, who is standing by Trump, and it was very clear who wants to destroy democracy, not only in Syria, in the Middle East, but destroy democracy in the United States and in Europe, in every place. He's supporting every right-wing nationalist conservative movement in the world. And it's not by chance that the Bibi Netanyahu became one of the main supporters, friend, ally of Putin and of Trump. In every general election we had here, we had big billboards on the streets. Netanyahu with Putin, Netanyahu with Trump. And the idea was that Netanyahu is the mastermind, the statesman, the one who all the world is with him, all the powers are with him. And the perks, the support of Trump to Netanyahu by recognizing the Golan Heights as part of Israel, but putting the American embassy in Jerusalem, by saying that the colonial, the settlements are legal, that the Palestinians have no rights at all, was something that the Israeli public, by 90% of it, or even more, accepted it as something that is good, that Trump is good for Israel, and Trump was more popular in Israel than in the United States itself. On the other hand, Putin was working the same way, supporting Netanyahu. He was the only foreign leader to be invited to the 9th of May parade, the day of the victory over Germany in Moscow. And Putin was all the time working together with Netanyahu, thinking, the three of them, that their future is open and they will be with us forever. Something happened in America, and it was the elections that brought Biden to the government. And we understood that Biden will not make the same mistakes that made Obama. And the first thing that for us was so important was what Biden said: we are in a new era. It's not anymore capitalism versus socialism. We are talking about autocracy against democracy. And Antony Blinken, the foreign secretary, said we will not commit the same mistakes that we made in Syria. But nobody took them seriously. Not Netanyahu and not Putin. And he decided to invade Ukraine. And this is the moment in which we understood that the Syrian people paid and are paying a very, very high price. But today is the destiny of humanity as a whole, which is in the balance. When we are speaking about Ukraine, we are not speaking about Ukraine alone. We are speaking about Ukraine, we're speaking about America, we're speaking about Europe, we're speaking about Israel, we're speaking about the Middle East. Ukraine is today what was Madrid or Spain in 1938. Hopefully this time, fascism will not prevail. And this is why we support Ukraine, because we are supporting our democracy, because we are supporting democracy for people, because we are supporting democracy for Syria. Because if Putin fails in Ukraine, a new chapter maybe will be open in Syria, maybe open in Egypt, might be open in the Maghreb, maybe open in all the Arab world, and also inside Israel. Now, I want to be very clear that the thinking that the Israeli government, by the way, from the start of the war, didn't want to take any position of supporting openly Ukraine and condemning Russia. Even when Iran, what they are calling it the existential threat to Israel, is allied with Putin. He's sending them drones. They have a strategic alliance. Even then, the ideological bonds between the right in Israel and the right in Europe, like Viktor Orban, and Putin, are stronger than the enmity towards the dictatorship in Iran. Democracy is a threat to Israel. Is a threat to Israel because democracy is a threat to its allies in the Middle East. The Egyptian regime, the Saudis, the Emiratis, all of this gang, they are all of them united in fighting democracy. So for us, supporting Ukraine is supporting democracy. And what happened is that in the last elections, the victory of the right, the ultra-right in Israel, brought to Israel itself for the first time the idea that democracy in Israel, even the limited democracy or whatever you want to call it, is being threatened. They want to destroy the democratic regime that exists in Israel. They want to copy the regime in Hungary or in Turkey or wherever. And for the first time, the liberal camp in Israel understood that the world is divided, that the support for Israel is not support which is given for nothing. The support which is given from these autocracies to Israel had a price, and the price is the destruction of the Israeli democracy itself. And under these circumstances, we have a protest movement for the first time in the streets, a very wide and big movement, which is calling for democracy. And this is for the first, which is everything is being, the old national consensus, which we are together against our enemies, is broken. We are not together anymore. There is a line which divides us between bigotry, the anti-LGBTQ ideas, the ideas of ultra-religion, the ideas of colonialism, the ideas of Jewish power, all these ideas, they became, for the liberal camp, the real existential threat to Israel and not its external enemies as the right wanted to present. So we are in a new situation. And from this point of view, we are part of this movement. We participate in this movement. We want to defeat the fascist right wing government in Israel. And we think that if Ukraine prevails and put in low doses, this will be a very big gain for the democratic camp inside Israel, Palestinian and Israelis alike. But if the contrary, we will lose any hope. So the stakes are very high. And this is why we're completely committed politically at least, with Ukraine, with the fight in Ukraine, because it is the fight only for Ukraine, but for democracy everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I see, and I promised to Farid, because he's gonna have an appointment late soon, so he wanted to speak again. And then whoever wants to take part in the discussion, especially people from the MENA region or Ukrainians, please do so. So Farid, please, you wanted to speak again.
بالبداية هي ثورة شعبية وليست حرب أهلية. هي ثورة بلشت بال 2011. السوريين طلعوا باحتجاجات، طالبوا بحقوقهم وحريتهم، ولكن نظام الأسد قابل الاحتجاجات بإطلاق الرصاص عليهم ويعني وكل أنواع الأسلحة. الشعب السوري هو طلع بالاحتجاجات كرمال الحرية ويطالب بحقوقه، ولكن الناس بلش النظام الأسد باعتقال الناس اللي طلعت بالمظاهرات، صار يحطهم بالسجون ويتعرضوا لكافة أنواع التعذيب السوريين بهذه السجون. ولحد هلا في آلاف المعتقلين في سجون نظام الأسد عم يتعرضوا لآلاف لأبشع أنواع التعذيب. الموضوع السجون مليئة بالسوريين، وفي عدة جنسيات بسجون الأسد. في مثل سجن سيدنايا سيء السمعة، هو سجن تحت إدارة النظام الأسد. طبعا روسيا هي بتدعم نظام الأسد بشكل علني من 2015، وحتى يعني ارتكبوا آلاف المجازر. يعني بعد كل هالوقت وآلاف المجازر ارتكبت بحق السوريين، نظام الأسد وإيران لحد هلا عم يدعموا هذا النظام. السوريين الأحرار طبعا في شمال غرب سوريا هن بيوقفوا مع كل الشعوب المضطهدة في هذا العالم، مثل الشعب الأوكراني والشعب الإيراني، مشان يحصلوا على حريتهم ضد هاي الأنظمة الدكتاتورية المجرمة القاتلة لشعبه. كل العالم الشعب، أي شعب بالعالم هو عنده حق إنه يعيش حريته ويطالب بحقوقه، ولكن الأنظمة الدكتاتورية مثل بوتين وخامنئي وبشار الأسد هدول ما عم يتقبلوا هذا الشيء، عم يقابلوا الشعوب بأبشع أنواع الأساليب. بشار الأسد وبوتين دكتاتوريين مجرمين حرب، وكمان خامنئي يعني. نحن ما بننسى المعتقلين في سجون نظام الأسد اللي عم يتعرضوا كل يوم لحد هالوقت لأبشع أنواع التعذيب. كثير ناس مغيبين عن في سجون نظام الأسد، ما بيعرفوا أهاليهم شيء. في مثل مجزرة التضامن اللي صارت، كيف جنود الأسد عم يطلقوا النار على الناس، يعني حتى عم يطلقوا الرصاص عليهم وعم يزتوهم بحفرة وبيحطوا الناس كلها، وبعد ما يقتلوهم بالرصاص هن عم يشعلوهم عم يحرقوهم. يعني بكل دول العالم ما صار هذا الشيء غير عن نظام الأسد. يعني الشيء اللي عم بيصير يعني اللي عم يتعرضوا له السوريين والاوكراني بهلا بهذا الوقت، يعني ما حدا بيصدقه، ما بيتصدق ابدا. يعني بالحروب اللي صارت عبر التاريخ كلها ما صار هذا الشيء. الشعب السوري بشمال سوريا هو واقف مع كل الشعوب المضطهدة، مع الشعب الأوكراني، مع الشعب الإيراني مشان حريته. يعني هدول نحن بشكل عام، نحن الشعوب بكل العالم لازم توقف مع المضطهدين، يعني مع السوريين، كان مع الأوكران، كان مع الإيرانيين، مشان يحققوا يعني مطالبهم اللي طالعين فيها. بكل تأكيد إنه خامنئي هلا عنده آلاف المعتقلين من الإيرانيين اللي طلعوا باحتجاجات مشان يغيروا هذا النظام. وبالأخير شكرا لكل العالم، شكرا للجميع هون. يعني كل الشعب بهذا العالم له حق انه يحصل على حريته ومطالبه اللي طالع فيها هو. عاشت الثورة السورية، يسقط الأسد، وروسيا دولة إرهابية. شكرا كثير.
Thank you, Farid. And thank you again for all the speakers. I learned quite a lot, actually, thanks to your interventions. We were planning to have more speakers, the Tunisian and Algerian speakers. Unfortunately, it looks like they're not here. So we can go with the discussion. If you want to ask a question, to raise your comments, or to add something, I see people who want to add something to the informations that were given here today. Also, especially I encourage our Ukrainian comrades and friends to speak, and people from the countries that were represented among the speakers. I know I think there are some Palestinians here in the room. So just raise your hands, whoever wants to speak, please. Okay. Yeah, MB, please. Yeah. You did raise your hand, so you can speak, please. I don't know if you hear us.
I can
Okay.
hear. Okay.
Yeah, okay,
I'm
okay.
comfortable speaking.
Lovely, please.
So I live in Israel. I am attending a weekly Zoom meeting of DAM. My parents are Jews from the Ukraine. So my interest in this, I am not pro Ukrainian. They also have the problem of anti-Semitism, much less than Russia, but it's a thing of saying in Hebrew is not out of love of Mordecai, but out of hatred of Haman. So it's not that I'm pro-Ukrainian, Ukraine state. I have a beef with Russia because it's anti-queer, authoritarian. It's a continuation of the Russian supremacy of the USSR and Russia persecuting organizations that document the war crimes of the USSR. It shows a continuation from the USSR to the Russian Federation. Okay, so it's like, okay, as long as I live in Israel, I'm a colonist, and I don't want to be like returned to Ukraine. So okay, my opposition to Russia is also because many on the left, on the opposition to capitalism and imperialism, are pro-Russia for some damn reason, and I'm afraid they'll expect me to submit to Russia as someone from Ukraine. So yeah, I have personal stakes in sticking to Russia. Not for the sake of any Ukrainian nationalism.
Okay, that's all. Thank you very much. Michael, I don't know how to spell your name. Very sorry for that.
Hi, how are you? Am I here in the audio?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it's my first time using the app. So my name is Mikhail Vocabra. It's not my real name, but it's the name I'm known online. And I'm here in a rather difficult position because I'm both Israeli and Russian. I'm Russian Jewish, and I protested 12 years in Russia. And after the current wave of the war, I had to leave. I was denied by Germany and ended up Israel, despite me being extremely critical of Israeli policies. So what I'd like to add is, like we already had Jakob and absolutely like brilliant speakers. I'm glad to hear people from Iran. I'd like to add more on what is being done in support for Ukraine by people in Israel. In general, there are four streams of support. Like, first of all, it's support from Israelis, people born in Israel, people without any historical connection to Ukraine, Russia, or Belarus. And on the leftist, it's really nice to see that every big protest that happens in Israel right now, protests for democracy, we see Ukrainian flags bring out by Vakman Union, and like everywhere in Tel Aviv, you see stickers by an organization called Israel for Ukraine that supports evacuation convoys and supports Ukraine humanitarily. In addition to this, there are Israeli Friends of Ukraine. It's a group largely meant by emigres from Ukraine, either pre-war or after the war, and these people organize big protests in support of Ukraine. Just recently, they had a protest in front of the Russian embassy on 12th of June, the day of Russia, as it's called in Russia, the day of Russian independence from Soviet Union. But they had held a huge protest on the the 1-year anniversary of the current wave of the war, and even brought the tailpiece of the Iranian drone to showcase for Israelis. You see, like the Israeli government supports Russia, and Russia supports Iran that sends like these Iranian drones, and basically like how you can be like supportive of this like fascist international. And another two streams are Russians and Belarusians who fled Russia. And I especially would like to speak about Russians for this is what I know, like Belarusians, they collect funds for Belarusian Legion in Ukraine. Belarusian Jews who, and just Belarusians who are on visas in Israel. Russians, they also like organized a number of protests, a number of donation drives. And I think it's important to highlight that there are like already like, I think Sadat mentioned people from Russia who fled to Turkey, and indeed, like with European Union closing the borders from Russian, so there are a lot of people from Russia with anti-war views who had to flee in Middle East and Northern Africa. I know people who are in Egypt and who managed to protest in Egypt in support for Ukraine, like hold really small protests. There are people in Turkey, especially in Izmir, but also like in Istanbul. There are people in Arab Emirates, in Dubai and Abu Dhabi. And right now, there are more than 40,000 people who moved to Israel after the current wave of the war, mostly Russian Jews, but also like people of other ethnicities of Russia who live in Israel. And I think it's important to use this asset because these are people who speak Russian, they often speak Ukrainian, they speak English, and these people can be very active if like you break this idea like that speaking out is something scary. And of course, like there are different kinds of dangers that people in Egypt and in Tel Aviv, Jaffa have, but I think like it's a good way to good asset that's underutilized, like, and there will be talk on Central Asia later, and Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan being like another area when a lot of people fled who already support Ukraine, who are ready to protest to Ukraine, who are ready to donate for Ukraine. And I myself am from Plakat movement, which is part Israel, part in Turkey. I'll put the links in chat, but there's also Kovчег movement, which is really active in Turkey. And while we are especially like where people there may not be leftists and are more centrist, there are a lot of leftists, and we are trying, like I myself am trying to build international solidarity to showcase that there is indeed a fascist international. The regime of Iran, the murderer Assad, the Benjamin Netanyahu, it's all connected to Putin, to the regime of People's Republic of China, and we need to highlight this, tell this to people. Sometimes people, they don't care about Ukraine particularly. Like I met people overseas, like Israelis, Palestinians, who say that Putin somehow is their ally, but no, you can show how Putin is not a friend of Palestinians, how Putin is not a friend of Israelis, how Putin is not a friend of Egyptians. There's different rhetoric to be used, and I think like everyone can understand, like can find this rhetoric to inform people, but this wall is really like important to break. And I hope that Ukraine wins, and I hope that people all over the world will understand that this narrative that there can be only American imperialism, that Russia is somehow the victim, it can be demolished totally, and that nations from Syrians to Palestinians can achieve freedom in this due international solidarity. And thank you everyone for speaking, and thank you for organizing this talk. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have a Ukrainian speaker. Vlad, please.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for all the people speaking. I learned really much. I'm from Ukrainian Action, which is a volunteering group of Ukrainians based in Ireland. And my experience is really different from different countries like Turkey and Israel, where because in Ireland, people support Ukraine. So we are focusing more not on highlighting or battling the pro-Russian views, but rather making a cohort of Irish people to show them a way how they can help, and allowing them to provide a way to help. So we are gathering money for some half military equipment like boots or clothes for soldiers, or more humanitarian aid for people who needed to move, something like clothes for kids, for just regular people, some medicine and so on. And also highlighting what events happen in Ukraine, because it's really sad to hear about Syria and the Russian war in Syria not being heard by international world. Luckily, Ukraine, attention of the world have been on Ukraine more, but still we need to inform people of what's happening. Like, for example, when something huge happens, like a dam breakage, and we can highlight with protests what can we do and how can we help. For example, there are a lot of people on the place saving people and even animals. Yeah, and also Ukrainian Action also does help with refugee. We help to integrate Ukrainians into local community because some refugee policies historically in Ireland were called direct provision and were dissimulating people from local communities, settling them separately from main cities, far away. And we organized the Ukrainian community center that helps to teach the language, helps to find the connections, especially connections with Irish people, and yeah, that's what we do. And thanks again for the support you provide. It's really encouraging to see people allowing Ukraine for self-determination rather than saying that we don't need to support Ukraine. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Kamal, please.
Yeah, hello. I'm Kamal. I'm from Syria, and I just wanted to actually. Michael said most of the things I wanted to say, but I just want to mention some things that's about maybe the Iranian revolution, the people who are against the Iranian regime, or the people in Ukraine. What I'm noticing the last time, so most people, they don't know really what's happening in Syria. Like I've been on Iranian demo to support their revolution. On what I heard there from two girls, like they still believe like that's Russia on their regime, that even they are against their regime, they still believe that Russia and their regime were fighting ISIS in Syria. Yeah, I don't know what, I don't want to really talk about that right now. We know who brought ISIS to Syria. Iran did it itself. Yeah, we Syrians know this for sure. What I want to say, like, how far, like, it's been 12 years, like, on some people who are too suffering. Like, we Syrians, we know everything, what's happening in Ukraine. We know what's happening in Iran. Huh? I don't know any Syrian of my friends who don't maybe support the Palestinian case, or who don't support or the Iranian case, or the Ukrainian, but you don't see this from the others. And still, like, after 12, I am a political science student. Like, I really care, but it hurts. Like, after 12 years, it's still the same. Like, for real. I don't know what to say. I just want to, maybe from the Iranians, human activists, to maybe mention Syria more, like, or from the Ukrainians to mention Syria more, to tell their people about it more. At the end, I just want to grade the people in North Syria, on the Syrian refugees in Turkey, and thank you, people. You are our heroes. It was.
Thank you very much. I think I've seen Dennis raising his hand, but he disappeared somehow. I don't know. Dennis, you want to speak? Okay.
Yes. I'm very grateful for all the speakers, especially those from Syria and Iran, for reminding us actually that, albeit these countries have almost disappeared from news recently, but everything is still going on. So the war in Syria and Assadist repression is still raging on. The repression in Iran, but also the resistance, is also continuing, and we should remember that we should support the cause of revolutionary forces in Iran and Syria, as well as other causes like the Palestinian cause that was mentioned. But there is some hope that if Putin's regime fails with its murderous war in Ukraine, and again, this all started already in Syria with this enormous number of people who have been killed by Assad's regime and its Russian overlords, then maybe it will undermine also Putin's allies in the region. But also there is maybe a counter trend. So we also mentioned how all these regimes in the region, everyone is terrible and reactionary in its own way. So fundamentalist regime in Iran, neo-Osmanist expansionism in Erdogan's Turkey, the most far right of the far right governments in Israel, Assad obviously is a murderous regime, the Saudi Arabia that is again, like Russia, waging its own fossil fuel funded brutal wars, the military dictatorship in Egypt, and so on. But it's some kind of recent news that some of these regimes that used to be competing with each other, that they have got some realignment and maybe some reapproachment, like with between Iran and Saudi Arabia. And what does it mean for the region? Maybe this is the question. Whether maybe this means that all these authoritarian reactionary regimes, they may put aside their differences precisely for the reasons that was mentioned, the fear of democratic and revolutionary changes. And maybe we also meet this other process of this new realignment, and maybe they will try to again use this balance of forces and reshuffling their spheres of influence in the region in order to suppress all these progressive movements in their own spheres of influence. So what do you think about this. So maybe this is a question. Thank you.
Okay,
And solidarity to all of you.
I guess it's a very broad question, but whoever from the speakers wants to answer or comment on that, please. If you have any thoughts of yours.
Can I say something?
Of course you can.
Okay. I would like to, a few questions raised on the case of Iran, Russia, war. If Iran, Russia can be alliance can be dangerous for Middle East. Of course, I mean it's already been. I think if you go back in 2011, since 2011 Syrian revolution up to now, the Iranian regime and the Iranian regime and the Russian both had basically a presence, a military presence in this country, and we know how they destroyed. I mean, they have their own. Even each country, Russia and Iranian, they have their own prison within Syrian land. So they have their own agenda, and Iran is very active in terms of intelligence surveillance of the Syrian revolutionaries, all that. And the question of basically the Islamist fundamentalists that one of the Syrian comrades referred to, to this very fundamental radical Islamist group in Syria. Everybody knows that this is the Iranian propaganda saying that, and no, really, I mean, since the Jinnah's revolution last September, nobody really buy the argument that the Iranian state went to Syria to shut down this Islamist fundamentalists. What is called Al-Qaeda?
ISIS.
No, ISIS. Sorry, ISIS. Nobody. I mean, this is only the Iranian state propaganda, and even those who believe this before the Iranian woman revolution, now they don't believe it anymore. I mean, this argument do not really buy by the Iranian revolutionaries anymore. And on the Saudi relation, I believe that it takes time for both states to basically trust, because there is no trust. You know, the Iranian state in many events basically attacked the Saudi embassy. They did a lot. So it takes time to for both to trust. But of course, this alliance would be a disaster for the region. But also at the same time, we have to consider this, that both sides, we have also a Saudi civic movement. We have women rights activists in Saudi Arabia, human rights activists in Saudi Arabia, and always the Iranian progressive shown their solidarity, and they monitor what is going on inside country. So Frida, if you'd like to add anything, please.
Yeah, Frida, please.
Yes, I agree with Fatemeh that this propaganda that Russia and Iran were in Syria to get rid of ISIS, that's been quite discredited in Iran, especially with the Women Life Freedom movement. Then there's a lot more support among Iranians for Syrians and opposition to Iran's intervention in Syria. And I'm so moved by all that I've heard at this meeting today. And I see so much possibility for following through by us in terms of solidarity work with each other. But I wanted to say that what Dennis said about how we're seeing a realignment in the Middle East of the authoritarian powers, and doesn't that mean that we, the forces of progressive forces, we need a realignment. I totally agree with that. And I think that begins with understanding what went wrong with the Arab Spring and what were the problems within the Syrian revolution itself that allowed it to be so badly crushed. I'm not denying that there are some revolutionary forces that are still alive and fighting, absolutely, and I'm with you. So that's, I think we need, in order for us to have the kind of realignment that Dennis is talking about, we really need a global approach and understanding of what is distinct about the capitalist authoritarianism and multipolar imperialism that we're facing right now, and all the other features that it has, like mass incarceration, the backward slide on, or the reaction to any type of gender progress that we've seen, the assault on the mind, the disinformation, other issues. I've discussed this in my book, Socialist Feminism and New Approach, and I also have a special section on what went wrong with Arab Spring and with the Occupy Wall Street movement, why they couldn't come together, why we couldn't have a global revolutionary movement at that point, and what we can learn from that for now. So thank you all.
Thank you. Yes. I wanted to let you to speak. Yeah, I see your hand raised there. So our interpreter, Arabic interpreter, wants to speak. Here we go.
Hello.
Yeah, go.
Okay, just I will talk about 2 minutes.
Val, wait a second, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anyone speaking? Because I'm not hearing anything.
Yes, we can hear
Yes.
Do I have to speak now?
We can hear you.
We can hear you. Yeah, I don't think you're in the translation.
No, I thought it's someone else talking. Yeah, I'm sorry. I just wanted to add something. Like
Kamal,
about
can you wait Kamal, can you hear
of
me?
course,
Can you just wait a second?
Of course.
Yeah, because yeah. No. It's
Thank
okay.
you.
But thank you. But I know there are two people who want to speak. I see Kamal and I know Val wants to speak. There was a problem with some people didn't hear it because they didn't change it. So Kamal and Val, but please do be short because I think we will be ending up this meeting very, very soon. So Kamal and then Val. Kamal, please. Kamal, can you hear me?
Well, I just hold Tori. It's okay. I would rather not speak anymore. It's okay. Thank you. And
Oh,
I will then
okay.
listen to the next person. Thank
Okay, so Val wanted to say something. Can you hear us? I know there was some problem with. Yeah.
Is it my turn now?
Yeah, it's your turn. Yeah, but please be
Okay.
brief because we'll be finishing.
Just to correction for my name, Wael.
Well,
Yeah.
sorry, sorry, my Arabic is non-existent.
Okay.
Sorry
It
for
was
that.
well. Okay, I am Awel for freedom and Wael for everything. Just answering my friend about why in Syria our spring has become to fall, not to spring. It is simply we all understand that all Arab countries stand against our revolution, because if our revolution succeeded here in Syria, it will go to other countries like Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and all the Gulf, and everywhere, and to Israel too. I think I don't believe in conspiracy theory, but sometimes I believe. Sometimes I believe. Our revolution was combated by all the decision makers for security reasons. Thank you very much. This is my simple answering, and I hope it's clear for everyone.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, as I said, yeah, 2 hours is not enough for a really in-depth discussion, but I think it's a good beginning, and I'm very happy that we got this meeting today. I hope it will bring some future cooperation with the speakers we had today, with other groups and people present. Just two things I want to mention again. I will post again. I posted it in the chat, but whoever wants to donate money for the workers' convoy that is leaving to Ukraine in August, and Sadat already spoke about it. There's details in the chat. That's one thing. And whoever is interested in working also with ENSU, with our group, the name is the European Network in Solidarity with Ukraine. But the reality is, thanks to this global meeting also, that it works not just in Europe. So if you are interested in helping us with our actions, if you're gonna sign our declaration, I'm sending it in the chat. You can also be a part of the newsletters we send, and we usually once a week organize a meeting which are more technical. There are issues we talked about, like current actions that we take in support of Ukraine. But if anyone is interested, you're more than welcome to join. That's all from me. Again, I want to thank all the speakers, and hope we're gonna see each other in the future and cooperate on solidarity with Ukraine, progressive solidarity with Ukraine. Thank you very much again, and see you guys.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night. Thanks a lot.